Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ekta Sehgal. I am the founder for MQ. MQ means money, mentoring, and motivation. We've been conducting different series for the last one and a half year on different topics, ranging from alone versus lonely, body shaming, fail to rise, motivation, leadership, and a lot more. Now, you must be wondering that these are topics that everybody knows. But what everybody knows is theory. What we would like to bring through every episode, every series of ours is experiential learning, hands on experience by the people who come here and share their thoughts, their opinion, their journey, their thought process. Today is Women Equality Day. Well, I find it a little strange that in the 21st century, we need a day like this to talk about women equality. Isn't every day about her equality, about her dignity, about her being inclusive in any and everything that she does? Our topic for the series is diversity and inclusion. What does diversity and inclusion mean? To me, to you, and to our esteemed panelists who represent the youth of our country. Youth is today, tomorrow, and after. Because when they talk, they don't just pick up stuff from Google. They think, they process, and they come up with such ideation that many of us cannot even imagine. But what is diversity and inclusion? Very simple English words, right? Diversity means diverse, right? What do we bring in diversity? We bring in the gender, male, female, and the third gender. We could bring diverse cultures. We could bring a lot of things, right? What is inclusiveness? Means to include something. So here is diversity, here is inclusiveness, get them to meet, and that's it. No, it is not all that simple. Under the Sustainable Development Goal, we have a gender equality goal, under which diversity and inclusion stands out loud. My question is, are we really talking about diversity and inclusion in real, or it is only on paper? There is a long way to go when it comes to diversity and inclusion. We adults think we know it all. Perhaps yes, perhaps no. But I would want to talk to the youth today. And let me tell you, it is not going to end at the youth. We will be talking to some men, women, the third gender, to know their perspective also, because diversity and inclusion impacts each one of us at a certain level. How deep that level is left to the individual. Before we go on any further, let me thank all our viewers on Facebook and YouTube who have joined us to hear these wonderful girls, the representative of the youth, and allow me to introduce each one of them. Our very first speaker, Tim Sabaj, is from Mumbai. She is a very interactive child. She feels very strongly for education. That is also one of the goals of the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. She is someone who has been spending a lot of quality time in grooming and teaching children who come from humble backgrounds. Detailed profiles have been shared, so I'm not going to dwell much on that. Our next speaker is Shifa Khan from Pune. Shifa is a second year liberal arts student with a keen interest towards psychology and dance. And she feels that if one is able to identify themselves through psychology, through spirituality, you are able to do a lot towards your mental well being. And third esteemed speaker is Anadita Pratap Breathitt, our youngest panelist. She is in grade 7. Yes, you hear it right. She is in grade 7. And at such a young age, she has very intense thoughts about right to equality, women, and has also submitted a paper in the United Nations to talk about some of the pressing matters that impact each one of us. With this, I extend a very warm welcome to Shifa, Timsa, and Anadita. So, good evening, girls. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Doing good.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, my very, very first question, and perhaps the most obvious question to each one of you is, and I'd like Timsa to begin, what does diversity and inclusion mean to you?
Well, I would begin defining it by this one proverb that I've heard, a very famous one. It goes something like this: a lot of different flowers make a bouquet, but we do accept that bouquet. So, to me, diversity is variation, variety, and inclusion is our acceptance of that variety. That's
Beautiful.
simply put, is something that I would define DNI as.
Awesome. Awesome. Same question to Anadita.
Diversity. First, Dims, I'd like to say beautiful proverb. You put it well. Diversity and inclusion to me would mean to accept and embrace all kinds of different people, and let yourself let the essence of yourself, your mind, your body, your soul, however you want to identify it, let it flow freely, and you should accept it because um, it's a new world. People change, and we're supposed to accept that change.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Shifa, same question for you.
Yes, I actually agree with Anadita and Timsa that diversity for me is inclusion of all opinions, of all type of variety, and accepting it and respecting it, and knowing that it's okay. It's let's agree to disagree, and that's absolutely fine, and we all are one at the end. So I think that's what diversity and inclusion means to me personally.
Wonderful. Agree to disagree. Diversity is embracing, inclusiveness is empowerment, says Monica Goel Devan. Wonderful. You girls have absolutely got it right. But do you think that in the 21st century, as each one of you would define yourself as Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z kids, or soon to be adults, one of you is, actually, two of you are rather, do we really see diversity and inclusion in our part of the world? Anyone could take this question.
I think we are evolving as the years are passing by, and I'd say that slowly, gradually, we can see the change by in the smallest local examples and internationally as well. Internationally, we can look at the BLM movement that sort of brought about a lot of change, and locally, there was this recent case study that I had studied about Zomato, where they had allowed both men and women to take holidays in case the maternity holidays were even provided to men for those people, those fathers who were adopting kids and were single fathers. So I think they're trying to include everyone in the smallest of bits, and slowly we are going to see bigger differences, like it says, baby steps, right? And then we can see the major differences in the future. So I think slowly, yes, there is some difference that we can see.
Wonderful. So, Anadita, you have had an experience of the current country that you stay in as well as the Western world, right? You had first hand experience. Do you think the entire world is actually gearing up to diversity and inclusion? If so, any experience that you had where you felt that this is happening?
Yes, I am of mixed race, so I've seen, and you don't have to just be from both sides of the world. You can see it everywhere and anywhere, no matter where you come from. The thing about diversity and inclusion in today's day and age, we are stuck, the older generations as well, we're stuck thinking that we need to follow traditions. And if we don't oblige to those traditions, we're thought we're disobedient. But we change. We have we change and we see the roots of those traditions and the roots of things that are clinging us to the past. And we all know what things have gone down in the past. For example, like you'll see some rules set in school places or places of work. For example, minor things as well. In America, somewhere in Wisconsin, there was a school that had a very, very strict dress code. Girls had to wear skirts way below their knees, if not ankle height. No skin showing at all. And that rule was implemented in 1937. In 1937, women couldn't vote. So we're linked to our past. And with the future generation, we're seeing that we need to evolve from that. We need to disconnect from the past. And that's diversity inclusion. That's what's kind of lagging us behind. The fact that we're not trying to move forward, and that we keep that there's this clouding shadow of guilt if we don't follow those old rules. Diversity and inclusion really, you just need to accept that it's change. We're humans. We're like Dimsa said earlier, like flowers. Flowers grow, we change, different species are discovered. It's evolution, and that's the only way to be humane is to accept that.
Correct, absolutely. So basically, what Anadita said, that we are all caught up in those old traditions, in that old thought process. What was said donkey years back is still prevalent today, and we are not willing to change. So the point here is that are we questioning the mindset of each one of us? Because if we do not have a shift in our mindset, perhaps diversity and inclusion may not be inclusive in its totality. We may be talking about diversity, genders, men, women, and the third gender. But are we really accepting that? Perhaps a big question mark. And I want to ask Shifa this question, that Shifa, you come from the psychology background. You're pursuing your, liberal arts and with a very keen interest towards psychology. My sense is that the mental well-being of an individual is looked down upon in most part of the world. Nobody wants to come out, right? And at the same time, if there is a challenge, nobody wants to include that person. What do you think is the impact of that on the society?
First of all, like you mentioned, that people, the mental health issues are not inculcated and they're looked down upon. I feel it's also because anything that is considered out of the societal norm, a bit also is considered, it's disregarded basically. And also, like Anadita said, that there's this baggage that we carry of traditions and roots that we don't want to leave at any cost. Somewhere makes us question that, are we not normal, are we different from people? And whenever you identify yourself as being different from others, you always know that there's a sense of guilt that always sets in, that why am I different? Because you will sometimes be made to feel that, okay, so this is not the way you should be, or this is not how things work. But that does not mean that we don't embrace our individuality, and we should go ahead with that. And like you said, that it is impacting our world because we just fear. So basically there are one of like 4 Ds in psychology, and one of the Ds is called as danger. So it's like when it's considered not inclusive in the society, you are always seen as that this is like a threat. So you're not. And also I think there's certain control issues that come in, that when you see someone behaving out of the norm, you feel that you have not been able to do justice to the teachings that you have been given, and that itself reflects in, so that then you feel a certain guilt that, oh, have I failed as a person. So that also sets in, and that also kind of makes the other person feel that, okay, I'm the person wrong here, like I'm the one wrong here. So I think the just reflection going on, and somewhere in this reflection the diversity is lost. But like Timsa also said, slowly but surely things are changing and evolving, and we are moving towards a world where acceptance is the key. So that's great to see in the changing world.
Wonderful. That's a very interesting thought. And you spoke about that there is a lot of change that is happening. I want to ask this common question to all three of you. All three of you are girls. Am I right in viewing you three as girls, or I should be viewing you as an individual? Should I be looking at gender equality, or should I be gender neutral?
Given the
Anyone?
way our world is progressing, I'd say each one of us have individual qualities. Like for example, today we are talking on a same topic, but we come from different backgrounds. All of us have some interest that differs from one another. So calling us all girls is one thing, but calling us gender neutral is going to be is more accepted and appreciated, I believe, and is something that I think we should continue with in the future as well.
So that's more inclusive, right? If
Yes.
I say gender neutral rather than specifying that, oh, I have all girls today. Thank you. What do you have to say, Anadita?
So, using gender neutral terms, like in my case, I'm non-binary, so that's just a norm for me.
Little
And
louder, please.
so when you're using gender neutral terms, so I guess there's two ways to say it. I'm non-binary, so that's just a normal for me. But there's like different terms. Like when you hear the word housewife, have you ever heard the term house husband? No. Uh, when you like when a woman is going to go interview for a job, and she mentions that she has two kids, she's often refused that the play position because people are gonna ask, you have to go home, take care of your kids. But if a man walks in coming for a job, he could have 10 kids and they wouldn't give a care because they'd obviously assume the mother would be taking care of the kids all the time. So a lot of these things have to be neutralized, as in, like we're saying equality, both sides need to contribute equally.
Wonderful. What do you have to say, Shifa?
Ma'am, I think gender neutral term is right, because that's how we accept the choices in different people. Like Anadika said, that there's not a term as house husband. And like that, I feel that when we are not referring, we are not, already putting them into a cage or a box, that this is what you are, that is what you are. I think we should leave it up to them to decide with time, what do you relate with most, and that is where change will come in. Not that I've already told you, oh, you're a man, oh, you're a woman. No, I give you the choice. Go ahead, explore, and you will find your path. So that's how we go ahead and embrace all the diversity around us and start
Absolutely.
accepting it.
Absolutely. So we have some very interesting comments coming up. Uh, Diversity is a fact. Inclusion is an act. Beautifully said, Kavita Loya Bajpai. Thank you for sharing that. And she also says that inclusion is about celebrating uniqueness, and the social conditioning needs a change. Absolutely right. Only when the social conditioning changes, there is a shift in the mindset. Only then the mental well being of each one of us will be okay and accepted. Because for all those who think that people who have challenges in terms of their mental health, I think need to question their own mental well-being. Because if you cannot accept the diversity, you cannot accept the person the way he she or them is, then perhaps the problem lies with you and not with them. You're all students, right? School and college. Do we see diversity and inclusion happening in schools, or we are far away from reality? Tim, so I'd like to go first.
Uh, I think there are some instances where we unintentionally discriminate between the two genders at a school level. Whether, I mean, the one common example would be sports. And since cricket is well known in India, I take the example of cricket, where the boys are told that, oh, yes, you can play cricket, this is a manly sport. But the girls, if they wish to play, they've been asked to change the rules in a way so that it's more suitable for our strengths, etc. Because that is something that I know people who have experienced. Or for that matter, if we take an example in just basic classroom, I think Anandita was talking about this a while back, where every time there is some manly work required or something that requires power or strength, the teachers will sort of say, I need like boys who are strong to come pick these chairs up. And the girls are just like, even I can pick that up. In fact, I've seen some girls pick the chairs up and show, oh yeah, look, even I can do that. So I think unintentionally there is some, to some extent, there is this discrimination that we see where not many people are included or accepted when it comes to certain aspects of school. But at the same time, it's a school, and they want everyone to feel as accepted and included as possible. So in other criterias where we are talking about the academics, I'd say you can see that they are trying to give equal chances to both the genders, or allowing all everyone to feel like they have something to, like they have the right to be a part of this. They feel valuable, they feel worthy of being part of something. So I'd say it's pretty equal.
It's pretty equal. Okay. What does Anadita have to say?
First, thank you, Timsa, for bringing that subject up that we were talking about yesterday. In schools, teachers need to. I think we can all agree our teachers are very hardworking. But the thing is, like you mentioned, Timsa, there's this unconscious, the subtle terms that they use that they don't think twice about. Like, I need four strong boys to come pick up these chairs. You get that little sense of anger and you just want to pick them all up and shove them out of their way. But it's so many other things. Like the dress codes, for example, I've mentioned this before. Girls cannot wear skirts below the knees, but boys can walk around wearing shorts that are up till their thighs. Like we don't want to see their legs. Why are you making us hide ours? So very subtle things that are there. And the reason that this is such a huge problem is that because you're making these young girls, young children, you're objectifying them from such a young age, saying that the boys will be distracted if you wear XYZ clothing. So if you start objectifying those young children from that age, when their minds are so vulnerable and you're shaping them, you're molding them, that's the job of an educator. It's going to have a very harsh impact, and you're making them think that that's how everyone will act in society. And you're excluding the fact that we will change. You're the younger generation, you're going to bring change. You're going to make all of these things different. And honestly, ask, if you're in a classroom, I had a friend from a different school. She was wearing shorts. She was wearing shorts one day from the boys' uniform, and the teacher made her stand up and sit outside of the class. So then she came back and asked everyone, "Am I distracting you?" All of the boys said no. All of the girls said no, and the teacher was ashamed of herself. So you need to see that these subtle terms, our teachers play a very important role, but these subtle terms, they need to be fixed. And it depends on the mindset. It's not all teachers, it's just the mindset of a person, how they were raised. And it's not their fault at all. But it's just such an issue that you're trying to objectify. You cannot objectify these young girls from such an early age. I think that's one of the issues. But
Bang on.
otherwise,
I
yeah,
completely,
they're
yes,
evolving.
you're very right. This objectifying of a specific gender, time and again, does bother that gender, and of course, we all know which gender are we talking about. We're talking about the women, the girls. Why is it that all that is faced by her? And I completely agree with what Timsa said and what Analga said. And I'm going to come to you, Shifa, in a minute. And I remember as a child, I was perhaps Anadita's age when I enrolled myself in a sport which at that time was only played by boys, which is kabaddi. Of course, we had a girls' team. We were not playing against the boys, but the the thought behind, oh, you're going to play kabaddi, that's a boys' game. I mean, why could you say that? Or for that matter, even hockey, right? So the physical strength is always questioned when it comes to the lady. How is it that the mental strength is not questioned, with no offense meant to anyone here? Why is it that the mental strength is not questioned? Isn't that equally important? And that's where I want Shifa to come in.
Ma'am, so like you said that the mental aspect is not really taken into consideration. Well, that very well goes to the lack of mental health awareness in our society again. And that, of course, in many, so also like from childhood, like it's like very, the women basically they just are more mentally more strong. I mean, I'm not like saying that men are not strong, but also it goes like because emotion wise, I think somewhere women do get a chance to express themselves more because crying is something that is seen for mostly like women, and there's something that oh, so if a man cries, so it's like, oh, men don't cry, only girls cry, so somewhere
He's a
that.
sissy, he's a sissy boy.
Yes, ma'am.
Those are the terms. He's a sissy boy if he cries,
Yes,
right? Or
yes.
you're crying like a girl. That
Yeah,
stereotyping happens.
that stereotyping happens, and but at the same time, because mental considerations are not taken into place, that's why we end up going towards the physical entities more, and we are just like, "Yeah, okay, like." So I also remember, there in one of the schools there was a 400-meter race, and it was only the boys were allowed to enroll for that, and when one of the girl students asked that why can't I participate, so they're like already like assumptions that no, I don't think you will be able to run for 400 meters. And actually, because the principal of the school was very inclusive, they actually promoted and allowed the girls to have a separate 400-meter race, and you would be shocked that some of the girls perform better than the boys. And it's just assuming already that okay, she's a girl, I don't think she'll be able to do that. Also, this is also seen in subjects, don't even leave subjects, like maths and science. I like literally seen that some of them say that uh oh, boys, definitely boy hai to their maths will be very nice for sure, like and if a girl is good at maths, they just applauded even more. Oh, you're good at maths. Oh, that's great. For a change, like as if it's something that is very new. Oh, for a change, okay, a girl is also good at maths. That's great to see. It's very subtle things. And talking about psychologically, ma'am, these things that are subtly said, which are not even which because of conditioning or whatever, our subconscious mind starts picking up on it, and we don't realize that. So this thing that women from a very young age, the girl starts feeling that I have to be a certain way, I think I have to be this way only. I think these are my boundaries, I can't step out of that. Because why that happens, because from a very young age you've been told that you have to be like this, you have to be like that, so that somewhere just sets in, and they're just like, okay, very subconscious thoughts, you're not aware about it, but you start acting like it. Why? Because it's stored in your, it's a programming that has happened in the back of your mind, and that takes time to, and that's why a lot of self doubt also comes, like, so terms like glass ceiling, so many, like work opportunity is not equally given, though both of them are equally capable. So right now I was actually there was this news that Deepika Padukone, she demanded for equal amount of money as Ranveer Singh for Sanjay Leela Bhansali's film, and he didn't like that fact, and I think she was removed from the film. for asking the same amount of money as her counterpart, and which was because she is as capable as him and they are doing the same amount of work. So then why paid less? So that is the question. So already assuming that, okay, you are not, and just made to feel that you are less. It's just there. It is there. It just sets in very naturally to us that it is. We just make the guys feel special automatically. It just sets in like that somehow. But it's slowly things are changing, and we can still not, it's not that we only have to focus on the negatives. There are positives as well. I mean, women are of course getting a chance to, like, education is a big thing that women have got a chance to, like, voting rights are there, especially in Muslim countries, Saudi Arabia. Women are getting voting rights also, and I think that's a great improvement. And yes, like, now women are also allowed to go out and, like, enjoy their lives and choose their lifestyles. So definitely change is coming. But again, because patriarchy is so deep rooted, we will still take a lot of time to come out of it. But definitely, we are setting our step every day forward.
That is why you Gen X, YZ generation is different altogether. Shifa, there is a reverse question for you, and thank you, Monica, for highlighting that, and that did cross my mind. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, it is not always hinting towards involve women or girls or give a parity from a women or a girl's perspective. There are many stereotyping that happens for boys and men too. For example, the point that Shifa said, boys cannot cry, which means there is so much of emotion that pents up that there is a moment where they break, and when that happens, it is a damage that cannot be controlled. And I don't think that mental health is something which decides that which gender it wants to impact. These subtle messages that Shifa was talking about also impact boys. A very right example that Monica has shared. If a boy or a man wants to become a chef or a dancer, what's the harm in it? So the question is that the more acceptable we are, the more we are willing to not only accept but also respond to that acceptance, that is when things will change. This is a very big change that is the need of the hour for the entire country and the world. Do you girls agree that each individual, irrespective of the gender, have a choice to make a choice? One. And if they are not permitted to make that choice, how do they voice their opinion? Do you have any ideas on this? Ananta, you want to go first? And Ananta, be a little louder. I'm getting
Yeah,
feedback from the audience that your voice is very low.
yeah, I think it might be my headphones. But so your question was both gender, regardless of any gender at all. Every individual, every person should be allowed to make a choice. And one thing you should, okay, there's two ways you can do this. I wanted to mention. First of all, there's body autonomy. And second of all,
Little louder, dear. Little bit louder, if you could be.
so so if you take the example of a woman's body autonomy, like abortion rights, in so many countries, those are denied. And she will be judged if she decides to terminate the child. Well, technically, it's not even a child yet. So those choices, and denied that, if she's denied that, then the only platform she usually goes anonymously onto a platform, like probably She the People or Impact or Change, all of those platforms. If you're denied that choice, then obviously you have to speak up because there's a rage inside of you. A choice is a choice is a necessity. And for both genders, you're saying if a guy wants to be something in, let's say, the artistic field, then he'll be questioned. The parents will say, you should be a doctor or an engineer. Or, like you were saying, the question about the reversed roles if a man wants to be a chef or a dancer, there's a second side to that. If a man is a chef, let's say like Gordon Ramsay, they'll call that an art. If a woman is a chef, they'll say that that's her duty, that's her household duty. But what if it's not her choice to do that? What if she wants to go out and do things and focus on her career or something? So, like your question is, so this question is a little lopsided because choices are not, uh, we're not given a lot of choices. We're not given a lot of options. But really, there's nothing I can say to this because we've not gone. We need to evolve past this. We're not given. That's the thing, and then there's the
So
competition
again, it
within
boils
those
down to the
choices.
mindset. It boils down to the shift in the mindset,
It goes down to
right?
it goes down to the mindset of the person who's giving you the options. And for both genders, all genders, those options are very limited. Like, let's take, for example, uh, transgender non-binary people. You're told that you're assigned female at birth, you're a female. If you're assigned male at birth, you're a male. And you're told you cannot go outside of that, even if a mistake was made, even if you know that you are different. Choices are very restricted, and this is what we need to see in diversity and inclusion. We Society only gives us this many choices, when in reality, we have hundreds and thousands of them. But we should be allowed to make all the choices we want as long as, until and unless it does not hurt yourself and it does not hurt anyone else. Those choices should be open and those choices should be freely given. And if there's not that, and if that option isn't there, then you voice your opinion on that. Then you create an option. I was in a competition, uh, external, not a school one, a while ago, and they asked gender, male, female. That's it. Me being non-binary, I was a little bit upset, so I made my own circle and wrote other. Small rebellions, and then they called me and said, "You can't participate. I'm sorry, you filled the format wrong." I don't care. They gave me the option if you can fill the form again saying female. No, I'm gonna make my own choices. We can make our own choices as we can evolve past those doors. And then there's the competition in those choices. If you if you don't choose one of those options that's given to you, you're called disobedient if you want another choice when you know there's another option. So that's the issue.
Yeah, that's so true. Shifa, what do you have to say about choices? Do we have the choice to be who we want to? Do we have the choice to choose what we want in our life?
Ma'am, so one of the points that I would like to add on is that yes, so we, even if we are given choices and freedom, we again somewhere restrict that also. That okay, now these are your options for freedom, these are your options for choosing from. But then you realize over time that I think I don't even fit in these options that have been provided. So sometimes we also like have, again, if when we see freedom, we also have set notions on that only, that freedom should look like this, freedom should look like that. But again, if I read one of the comments, it said inclusion is all about accepting the person for who they are. So again, everyone's definition of freedom is different, and you need to understand that. So like Anadita said, that non-binary, and it's so again, it's not about gender, your sexuality and all that. It's all about an individual person, and that person should be free to do whatever they want to do. And that, so that's the thing. If many a times it happens that when we see a person uh, having a choice which we have not ever heard of, or we like, this is something new for me. Okay, like I'm just giving an example, not for me personally, but I've seen that happening. So we sometimes, we just like we're kind of like astonished that okay, is this also a thing? So there we can just tell ourselves that it's okay, maybe I not completely relate, but that does not mean that this can't be included. So two different opinions can, you know, exist together, and in that different opinions you can still respect each other, have compassion for each other, and I think that's how humanity will go ahead. So knowing that even if this person is completely polar opposite to me and their choices are nothing that I have been taught of or whatever I know of, you should be like, it is fine, because it's their choice at the end of the day. And I respect that. And yes, they will also respect my choices, not because I'm respecting theirs, because they also know that, you know, deception has a place, and it should have a place even more with time. So I think just recognizing little things. For example, some of my guy friends wear nail paint. One of my guy friends, they like the color pink. Now, when they tell these things to other people, when they are asked, "Oh, what's your favorite color?" When they say pink, and I personally, colors are again something that are discriminated. I personally don't like pink color, but sometimes people are sure, "Oh, you're a girl, you don't like pink." I'm sorry, I don't like pink. I like black. So it's like very small things. So they, and they're not even freely able to, you know, put this nail paint, because they're questioned. Oh, yeah, how can you put a nail paint? This is not something that you're allowed to do. That's not a choice. Maybe a man finds nail paint as cool as a woman, and that's fine. And there are so many women who don't like putting nail paints as well. There are women who like keeping short hair. That is sometimes looked down upon. What's wrong in having a bob cut? That's not again just for a guy, right? And there's this K-pop group called BTS. Like, K-pop is Korean pop. They in their country, in Korea, the music industry, the men, they apply makeup, and many people around the country, they criticize them because, oh, again, makeup, it's meant for girls. That's not the thing. So no one is appreciating. Of course, there are people who appreciate their music a lot and they have an amazing fandom. But again, first, only because we're so stuck in the things that we have been taught, we are very you know, we're not ready to see the change, only because we're so stuck. Oh, this is how the things have to be like. So once we allow ourselves to come out of that and not look at person from what the society has taught us, but look from a person for who the person is, simply, I see you for who you are. I don't see you what I have been told how I should see an individual. I'm not even seeing you how I think I see a person. I'm just seeing you for who you are. I allow you to be who you are. And of course, I'm not no one to allow, because when you allow, you would calling yourself putting yourself at an authority or something. Not like that. But yeah, but I just observe you, and however you are, I will accept you and include you, and providing that comfort level to that person, so that they feel open. So very small clues you can give a person. So when, you know, my guy friends, they want to put nail paint, instead of, some people first criticize, but I just go like, "Hey, I like your nail paint color, it looks so cool on you." Small things, but it can make them feel so good about themselves, and be like, "Okay, you know what, this is for me too, because I am an individual and I have choices too." So very small things again, but if only we accept it and not see an individual from what we are taught to see them as. Just
Absolutely.
let them be for who they are. And when you do that, when you let them be who they are, you will realize that that's where inclusion and diversity starts, and that's where you will start appreciating diversity as an individual. That is also very important to see.
Absolutely. Wonderful. 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 Timsa.
Yes, so I believe you had asked if everyone has the right to sort of make the freedom to make choices, and the straight answer that I can give to that is yes. Everyone should and should have the freedom to make any choices that they wish to, and I think Anandita and Shifa really brought that out pretty well. But there's something that I you mentioned, you asked us about. Sometimes people cannot voice their opinions or cannot make a choice on their own. There are certain barriers that restrict them from doing so. So how can they break those barriers? I think there's only one main barrier that Shifa kind of talked about a little bit, which is respect. As long as you're not disrespecting someone else, and you're making the choices for yourself and not for someone else around you, I don't think so anyone would ever raise a question to what choice you've made. But as soon as you overstep the boundary of someone else, that's when the conflicts begin, I think. So before questioning or before accepting others, I think we should question ourselves as to how accepting we are towards certain situations. Before we talk about, oh, you like short hair? Oh, I don't like short hair, I like long hair. First, I need to think to myself that am I being accepting towards this person? So you can have differences in opinions, but the way you sort of communicate that with others is what matters the most. As long as you're not disrespecting someone, an individual or a community for that matter, I think no one would ever question or stop you from voicing your opinions or making a choice. And I think I kind of picked up from what Anandita also said, that sometimes there are people who fear voicing their opinions or making a choice because someone may say something, but I think that fear needs to be broken, because no matter what opinion you have, you will find someone in the world who, of course, at least believes to some extent, believes with the thing that you are talking about. So I genuinely believe in the statement that you're never alone. And I can say that diversity is sort of like being invited to a party, but inclusion would be to being asked to dance, but respectfully. So that's how I would put it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hearing you girls, I remember when I started my career, it was my second job, and I had a male boss, and we were a team of three. To begin with, we were two of us, one boy and one man and one me. So our boss sat down with us, and obviously that conversation was not specifically for me because I was the other gender, the second gender, but for both of us. And he said only one thing: when I talk to the two of you, I talk to two individuals. I am not talking to a girl, a boy, or a woman, or a man. So please do not expect that I am going to be overly respectful towards you because you're a girl, or I will be using whatever language I want with the boy, the man. It's going to be a fair play. So, in turn, what I expect from you is a fair play. Do not play your sob story. Do not play your victim card. And with that, my last question to the three of you is: are we girls also responsible for non-inclusiveness amongst each other? And taking cue from what Timsa said, that there has to be respect, and we need to first know ourselves, right? We have to accept ourselves. A little bit of narcissism is acceptable. Are we girls? I'm going to count myself as a girl with you girls. Yeah, I feel young and energetic today. Are we also responsible for not making diversity and inclusion happen? Anadita, what do you have to say?
Um, so one thing I just great question, question really. It does not matter. Do not judge someone upon when you first look at them. The foreword of when you look at them. Do not judge them if they are a man, woman, NB, transgender. Do not judge them by their skin. Do not think that if they're a woman, they're not. Don't think if they're a woman, they're gonna be equal. Don't think that if you're in the LGBT community, you can still be transphobic or biphobic. It's all about the mindset. It does not matter whether you are a man, woman, transgender, NB. It does not matter. It's only the mindset. And of course, a woman can still follow patriarchal roots, say misogynistic comments, because maybe that's how she was raised, maybe that's the environment she was brought up in. It does not matter at all. It's all based upon the mindset. And inclusiveness in women, um, me and a few other people I know in an old school, like if I there like competitions as well. Have you ever noticed that it's always boys versus girls? And sometimes I didn't like that. If there was a boy versus girl thing, like in the at the playground in recess, boys versus girls, I didn't like the competition being divided solely on gender. So I would stay out, and then I would go hang out with some of my girlfriend friends, and they would all say, "Are you a boy? Why weren't you with us?" So that kind of can shudder around. It does not. It's only on your mindset. You can only be biased if that's what your mindset is. You can make an extremely misogynistic and patriarchal comment, and you can still be a woman. You can make a very, very racist comment, even if you are an African American person. You can make a racist comment to a North Asian person or South Asian person. It's all based on the mindset. It is all based on the mindset. That's mainly all I have to say. And that's the only thing that we need to improve. Just change the subtle tones, the subtle, the terms, the tones, the ways you view a person. It's all in the mindset. It does not. If you're making when I'm speaking to a person, I'm not speaking. I am not speaking to a man. I'm not speaking to a woman. I'm not speaking to a black, white, or an Asian person. I'm speaking to a person who I will judge based on their judgment and their mindset. If they make a comment, and if they use a racial slur, I'm going to see them as a racist person. If they make anything of that sort, I'm just going to judge them. Not judge. I'm just going to view their mindset. Honestly, that's all I have to say. It does not matter whether you are a woman, a man, anything. Your mindset is what uh, the future generation. I'm not going to classify Gen Z, our generation, as society because we've seen how badly society has treated us. So let's take it from Gen Z's point of view. I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna view you based on your mindset.
Perfect.
Society is gonna view you otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Timsa, women
Um,
not working towards inclusiveness, are we to be held responsible also?
I think the only thing I have to say on this, it's not about women not being um, not being responsible for being non-inclusive to some extent, but I'd say if any individual in the world is unable to understand the other perspective with, like I mentioned before, with proper respect that the other individual or community should be given, then that ultimately leads to the fact that you are being non-inclusive to the other party. As like Anandita mentioned elaborately on the mindset, the mentality of the society is what matters the most. So if we aren't able to look at the other side of the point that we support, and then sort of accept the ones around us, then I would say yes, we do have some responsibility towards non-inclusiveness. And because you mentioned girls, this may be a little contradicting, but I've seen girls struggling in the current society to for gender equality, feminism. Now, I think in a previous discussion we had discussed that feminism isn't about women or girls just getting what they want. It's about gender equality. It's for men and women both. So what I'd say is it's about the mindset, like Anandita mentioned, and it's about the respect. If you're unable to understand the other perspective and unable to accept uh, respectfully accept what the other person's saying and understand what they're saying, and then sort of disagree to, if you don't agree with it, no one's going to force you to agree to the other perspective, but without understanding the other side, if you go against it, then that is unintentional disrespect, which again is being non-inclusive. So I wouldn't say us as girls are being non-inclusive, but I'd say any individual who doesn't do so is being non-inclusive, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
So let's not be judgmental. We have
Right.
to accept. And a friend of mine made this statement once: don't just accept the person, but receive the person the way he or she is. Only that way will you actually bring in the inclusiveness. Otherwise, to say, yeah, okay, I hear you, what you say, but the inclusiveness means to actually respect the opinion of the other person, right? And there was a point, earlier which Anadita had mentioned that whatever choices we make or whatever we choose to do, we should not be disrespectful to someone. But obviously, there are many questions that get asked that, how do you know whether this is disrespectful for me or not? And most often than not, since we are talking to the youth here, you know, our country is a very diverse country. We have many traditions, we have many rituals that happen, and many of us don't know much about it. And, we are also question this: why should I do this? Why should I do that? So, I think it is important that if we are questioning something, if we do not want to be included in that, we need to also perhaps question that why is that tradition or culture being followed? If there is merit in it, just to prove a point that I don't want to be a part of it, is also not being inclusive. We as the youth, or we as the future of tomorrow and the present today, have to accept that inclusiveness is not only about gender. There is diversity in many things in life. It's about the culture, the tradition, the languages, the ethnicity. When we go out, when we go abroad, we accept so many things. But why is it that this inclusiveness or this diversity that is present in our very own country, the youth is unable to accept that? The culture, the tradition that is being there in our country for years together, which is the legacy of a country, we need to accept it. Unless there is what do I say, any kind of stereotyping that is happening over there, or any kind of superstition is involved in that, yes, then I agree. But that's my message, as a bridge between the older generation and the new generation, the Gen Z, that we as youth also need to work on inclusiveness. Don't just be rebellious about the fact that anything and everything that is conveyed to us has to be questioned, because that is also accepting the diversity that is there in somebody's mind. If you are expecting a change in the mindset of the older generation, let me tell you, my friends, that it always takes two to tango. And then what will happen is, I'm seeing that board constantly behind Timsa. It says tumse na ho paega. Where typically the older generation will say, you guys cannot do anything, you don't understand anything. The youth says, you don't understand. But the point is, we have to look at inclusiveness over there, because there is a diversity. So let's not restrict diversity and inclusion towards professions, towards the corporate world, about the gender parity, the gender neutrality, about the choice of your sexual orientation. It's a lot more than this, and it can only happen when the yesterday, today, and tomorrow actually come in sync with each other, and there is inclusiveness in them. Yes, Shifa.
Ma'am, I think you made a wonderful point as you said that you are a mediator between the older generation and the young generation. So, with time, also that the realization that is coming up is that, that definitely the thing is that older generation says that to the young generation that तुमसे ना हो पाएगा. The same thing then the younger generation says आपसे ना हो पाएगा. That keeps on going on. So where do we stop? Is there an end to it? So how about if one person has to, probably it's not even about being the big hearted person. It's about just putting it forward that okay, inclusion in all ways. So now, like you said, that just because we are the young generation, we can't altogether disregard the cultural roots that we have. Okay, we cannot do that, and we cannot expect so because we have got more exposure, we cannot just expect the older generation to just wake up overnight, change their mindset, and the next moment they'll be like standing beside us and being like, okay, I believe in what you say. That's not true, because I think we ourselves because we recognize so much and we have that much of exposure from going to that part where we were also stuck into this initially, to coming this part where we realize the differences do exist. We have also taken some time to reach there. Yes, we are more towards it because somewhere our opinions, we are more freely able to keep that, because we know that now we have another option. It's not always we have to blindly follow what we have been taught. So that is a very plus point that has been given to our generation. So I think rather than just saying that okay, you will not understand, you will not understand, how about you for once try understanding them also? That can also change many things. So again, inclusion is also about, like I mentioned before also, there will still be conversations where you will completely disagree what they have to say. They will still disagree to what you have to say, and somewhere the disagreement from that side will be a bit more stronger, because sometimes it's completely new for them, right? So how about there, that we as a young generation be like, okay, so maybe that you will take time to reach there, and because we're talking about inclusion, then let them also continue to be the way they are, and not then expect them that how about you also change your mindset. So if you want them to understand your mindset and accept it, then you also have to do the same towards them, and not completely expect them to jump in and be at your level mindset wise, and give them that time. And might be that even after giving them time, they would not want to change, or they were not willing to change. So even if they're not willing to change, just being there and saying that it's okay, if you're not willing to change, it's fine, I will not force you. That is also very important to understand, because that is also how inclusion comes in, because some people do not want to read the rules, they want to stick to it, they want to continue to believe in it. If we are talking about diversity, so that is also part of diversity, not just what
Yes.
we are talking about. So it's about understanding, like you said, you know, you clap from both the hands, right?
Yeah.
So yes, definitely. So this is what I mean, I have been personally focusing on, is this, that don't just expect a lot. If you want to continue with your opinions, continue. No, I know that you will get a lot of bashing, and that's when our rebellious behavior comes into place. But then just knowing that where, understand that where they are also coming from, and the day you start doing that, I think that's when you have the power to bring more change in the world, because that's when subtly on their part also inclusion is coming, and you will realize that with time. That is what I am realizing with time. So not so
Yes.
I really feel that just expecting a lot, it just creates more pressure, क्योंकि वहां से भी कोई नहीं सुन रहा, वहां से भी कोई नहीं सुन रहा, तो फिर solution क्या है? Problem तो है, solution
So the
oriented problem.
solution is what Timsa said: respect each
Yeah,
other.
yes,
No,
respecting it.
so we know that there is diversity. There
Yeah,
is diversity in gender. There is diversity in thoughts. Now the question is, how do we bring inclusiveness in that, right? As the youth of today, I'm also youth for my older generation. You are youth for our generation, right? That's how it is. The evolution that happens from one generation to the other is basis the exposure that is there. That exposure is also given to our generation. But please understand that in order to make both the sides inclusive, this level has to move up. That level has to not be rebellious and come down, so that there is the gap between the two is lessened. It should not widen by the younger generation being rebellious, right? Then we can work towards an inclusive environment where each of us has the right to express. You can question the mindset. You can request for a change in mindset, but you cannot authorize them to change the mindset. And also, I would say, as my last comment, that when we talk about inclusiveness, that doesn't mean that we always have to fight for it. Inclusiveness can be done amicably also, where each of us respects the other person's opinion. As Timsa said, respect is a very strong message that has come out loud and clear. We respect your thoughts. Can you look at changing your mindset? I agree it will take time, but it will happen. Rome wasn't built overnight. When we have youngsters like you giving a rational opinion, today you guys are live on Facebook and YouTube, and many people are watching you and will eventually watch you. And most of them are agreeing with what you are saying, which means that what you're saying is right. But having said that, we have to include the ones who are not okay with it. Right? The acceptance of any change or any diverse opinion is not so easy. And you, the youth, holds the holds the responsibility to actually bring about the inclusiveness of the inclusion of the diversity. I don't know whether it really made sense with too much of jumbling of words over there, but yes, Shifa, you want to say something?
Ma'am, like you very well said. So, like that's how like change comes. So, yes, we can't just automatically expect. So now I also then kind of became a mediator because I also am talking from my generation point of view that yes, at times we will be rebellious and we would definitely. So we will definitely keep our points in front and we will not never ever stop from that. That is a very strong thing about our generation. We will not stop from saying what we want, but then it will so happen that immediately whatever is said is not reciprocated, and then when we are the ones who are trying to embrace inclusiveness more with time, so that's when we instead of, so we can question also, but even after questioning, if you see that things are going haywire and there is no reciprocity or receptiveness coming from that end, so you can obviously change that, because you know that now you have an option and you have gone up in that mindset where you are open of inclusiveness. So how, you can then see their point of view also and consider that also as a part of inclusiveness, and that's when you can also say that okay, here again I'm not completely agreeing with you, but because I respect every opinion, every mindset, I respect yours too. And of course, you would want that they also respect and understand, which will take time, understanding. But then the very fact that you have understood that on first, you've understood first for yourself, it kind of can later seen as an example that okay, so she understood. So again, like you said, that people from your generation are also seeing, so the, they are, so definitely change is coming. So when they will probably see us being so inclusive of so many other things, even their opinions, so I think this will also help them change their mindset. Again, we cannot force it, of course, and still there will be so many people who wouldn't want to change, and it is a bit disheartening, but it's okay. But that does not
It
mean
will
that
happen. It
yeah,
will happen. Give it some time. And all I would say before Timsa adds a point, respect the experience and experience the exposure that you get. When you will combine your understanding of today's time with the experience that they bring, and you accept it with open arms, believe you me, the diversity that is present in the generations will automatically be inclusive. And it is happening. There are grandparents, parents who are understanding that there is a change that has happened. I was speaking to someone today, and it was a different conversation altogether, but a very interesting point came forward that the youth of today, the younger generation of today, are aliens. They think very differently. Okay, you guys are different altogether. Your thought process is different. You have evolved to question, whereas the earlier generation had evolved to accept what was conveyed. So gradually that shift is happening. And before I conclude this, yes, Timsa, what do you have to say?
Yes, something that Shifa was talking about, I wanted to just add on to that. Diversity, despite it meaning like different or variety, it does not mean that we differentiate or differ between people. Diversity is rather about embracing the uniqueness that lies within all of us. And I think this was very well seen in the beginning of the pandemic, something all of us have been through, which was something that was, running around on all social media platforms, news channels, people to people in person as well. The statement was, we are all in this together. And if that is one statement that we can remember, then something that you said about the past, present, and future coming on the same page beautifully ties up with the fact that diversity and inclusion, which is DNI, needs to be brought out in our DNA for all three generations.
Wonderful, wonderfully said. All right. So before I conclude, any closing comments, Anadita?
Yes. So on the basis of older generation understanding, I think the main reason, can you hear me? I think the main reason that we were, our generation, millennials, Gen Z, we're just scared of of the way that they were brought up, the things that happened during their time. Naturally, we were just scared of the societal norms during that time in which our parents, our grandparents grew up with, which is um, like if I'm talking, like if you're talking to your grandparents, you're gonna be a little dicey around them with these new topics because you know that it's not it's not their fault. It's the societal norms that revolved around their upbringing. So we're just scared of those that they might not accept the fact that we're changing. Like I think we all mentioned this similar one point. We're growing, we grow. We're supposed to change, and that change is beautiful. There, I'm sure we've all heard this quote, no, and it's a scientific fact, no two snowflakes are ever alike. And you're not gonna, and to try and mold each and every single snowflake to one similar pattern, it's gonna get boring, it's gonna get dull, and it's not gonna be human. There's hundreds of thousands of species of animals, flowers, in most things. Why can't we be different as individuals? And just imagine just picking up a flower that you've never heard before, seen before. It could be a new species that you've discovered for all you know. Diversity and inclusion means in that bouquet that you have, it could be roses, carnations, lilies, tulips, flowers that are very normal, and you see that very strange looking one. Pick that flower up and put it with that bouquet and accept it and put it in a vase and showcase it. And, and don't be afraid of the past. Don't be afraid of the past. And to the older generations who might not agree with what we're saying, it's not entirely your fault that you're not agreeing with us, and you don't have to agree with us. Just don't make us feel bad about the things that we're saying. If you have a point to add it. We're not saying that we want you to change your mindset entirely. That's a very hard thing to do, but it's change, and change is normal, and change needs to be accepted. So that's my closing statement.
Yeah, true. Change is the only thing which is inevitable. And yes, I think, I don't think rather that there is anybody who hasn't agreed to all the points that you young girls have brought out. I am in agreement with what you are saying. You are in agreement with what I am saying, that indeed in itself is diversity and inclusion. We are from different generations. People who are watching you are predominantly from different generations, ranging from senior citizen to the mid-aged to youngsters. So there is an acceptance. So it is not that there isn't an acceptance. Well, thank you, girls. Wonderful hearing your thoughts on different aspects of diversity and inclusion. And I must say that I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with the three of you. And I am proud of the youth. If you three are the true representation of the youth, excellent. And it is also somewhere reflecting about the grooming and upbringing that has been offered to you by the older generation, which is making you accept the diversity and working towards inclusion. So, that in itself is a big testimony that indeed diversity and inclusion is happening. So, thank you so much, Timsa, Anadita, Shifa, for sharing your views, for making me feel young and energetic today with you three young, vibrant girls. Thank you so much for being at MCube. The entire team of MCube, that is Ela Pachori, Monica Goel Devan, Pooja Dikshit, and myself, we thank you for giving an amazing start to our series of diversity and inclusion. Well, our next session on diversity and inclusion is going to be about hearing the men. But let me tell you, we are not bringing them separately because we don't believe in diversity and inclusion. Of course, we do. But it's just that we want their opinions to come out clearly, to bring out the diversity, and perhaps concluding it in inclusion, where we would maybe bring in a surprise package at the end of the entire series. But for today, thank you, girls. Have a great evening, and it was wonderful to host you. And I hope you guys also had a great time here. So, thank you once again from the entire team of MQ.
Thank you for having us. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, these three girls brought out some very important aspect: respect, changing the mindset, accept each other the way one is, introspect, retrospect, understand yourself before you start understanding people and things around you. Don't be judgmental. These are some of the learnings that I take away from these young girls. Don't keep harping about your past laurels. If system is changing, traditions are changing, make the change, because change is the only thing which is inevitable, and it's the only thing which is constant. So stay tuned with us for our next session on 2nd of September at 18:30 hours, where we will be hearing three amazing men talk about diversity and inclusion. Till then, stay safe, do look at inclusiveness and diversity, but do not forget to include one thing for sure, and that is wear your mask and protect yourself. And don't be too inclusive with people. Maintain your physical distance and keep the social distance on. So take care and thank you, girls, once again.
Thank you, ma'am.